Welcome to Nightmare Fuel Stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the stories. Number the healing touch. I've always considered myself a good nurse. 13 years at Mercy General Hospital had taught me to balance compassion with clinical detachment. You have to in oncology. When half your patients won't survive the year, you learn to build walls while still providing comfort. I was good at it, finding that perfect distance where I could care without breaking. Until Dr. Elias Mercer arrived. He joined our staff last October, when the maple trees outside the hospital windows blazed crimson and gold against a slate-gray sky. I remember his first day clearly. Tall and lean with prematurely silver hair despite being only in his early 40s, Mercer carried himself with quiet confidence. His credentials were impeccable: Johns Hopkins medical degree, research fellowships at Mayo Clinic, published papers on experimental oncology treatments. The hospital administration practically glowed when they introduced him at the staff meeting. Dr. Mercer's innovative approaches to late-stage cancers have shown remarkable promise, Dr. Winters, our chief of medicine, announced. We're fortunate to have him join our team. I noticed something odd that first day. When Mercer shook my hand, his touch lingered a half-second too long, his eyes, a peculiar amber color, studying my face with unusual intensity. Nurse Abigail Chen, he said, my name rolling off his tongue as if he'd been practicing it. I've heard good things about your work with terminal patients. I withdrew my hand, unsettled by the chill his touch left behind. Thank you, Dr. Mercer. I look forward to working with you. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. As do I, Abigail, as do I. I should have recognized the warning signs sooner. Within weeks, Dr. Mercer had become something of a miracle worker on our floor. Patients who had been given months to live suddenly showed improvement. Tumors began to shrink. Pain levels decreased. The whispers started in the break room. Did you see Mrs. Donovan's latest scans? Lisa, another oncology nurse, asked me over coffee one morning. Her liver mets are half the size they were 2 weeks ago. New treatment protocol? I asked, blowing steam from my cup. Lisa shrugged. Mercer doesn't document anything unusual. Standard chemo, some pain management, but something's different. They're calling him the miracle doctor. I'd noticed it too. Terminally ill patients would be placed under Mercer's care, and within days their conditions would stabilize. Within weeks, many showed significant improvement. It wasn't universal. Some patients still declined, but his success rate far exceeded any oncologist I'd worked with. Maybe he's just that good, I suggested. Lisa lowered her voice. Have you noticed he always insists on being alone with new patients for their first examination? I hadn't, but once Lisa mentioned it, I couldn't stop noticing. Dr. Mercer would politely but firmly dismiss nursing staff during initial consultations. Hospital protocol called for a nurse to be present, but no one challenged him, not when his patients were showing such remarkable outcomes. And have you noticed how tired those patients are afterward? Lisa continued. Like completely drained. They have cancer, Lisa, I reminded her. Fatigue is part of it, but I began to pay closer attention. The first real incident occurred with Timothy Gardner, a 42-year-old father of 3 with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He'd been given 3 months at most. After 2 weeks under Dr. Mercer's care, his tumor markers showed modest improvement, nothing miraculous, but enough to give his family hope. I was checking Timothy's vitals during my evening rounds when he grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. Don't leave me alone with him again, he whispered, his eyes darting toward the door. With who, Mr. Gardner? Dr. Mercer. His voice dropped even lower. He does something. When nobody's watching, I gently disengaged my arm. What does he do? Timothy shook his head, frustration crossing his gaunt face. I can't remember exactly. It's like I black out, but I feel him inside me somehow. And afterward I'm so cold, so tired. He clutched at my scrubs. Please, just stay in the room next time. I documented the conversation as patient anxiety and confusion, common in terminal cases. But I couldn't shake the uneasiness that followed me through the rest of my shift. That night I dreamed of Timothy Gardner. In the dream, he lay in his hospital bed while a shadow bent over him, elongated fingers pressing into his chest, not breaking the skin but somehow sinking beneath it. The shadow had amber eyes. I woke gasping, my bedroom cold despite the summer heat. Timothy Gardner died 3 days later, not from cancer, from heart failure, unexpected, unexplained. At the nurse's station, I overheard Dr. Mercer speaking with the chief of medicine. Unfortunate complication, he was saying, his voice smooth as polished stone. The cancer had likely metastasized to the cardiac tissue. We simply caught it too late. There was no autopsy. The family, grateful for the extra time and reduced suffering in Timothy's final weeks, didn't request one, but I knew pancreatic cancer doesn't typically metastasize to the heart. I began watching Dr. Mercer more carefully. I volunteered for shifts when he was scheduled. I reviewed his patients' charts looking for patterns. Most improved dramatically after their first few sessions alone with him. Some, like Timothy, showed modest improvement before suddenly declining, always from complications seemingly unrelated to their original cancer. The pattern was subtle but unmistakable. The patients who improved the most were younger, generally healthier apart from their cancer. Those who suddenly declined were older or had multiple health issues. It was as if he was selecting. Then came Lily Matheson, an 8-year-old with an aggressive form of leukemia. She'd been transferred to our hospital as a last resort after 2 failed rounds of treatment elsewhere. Her prognosis was grim: weeks, not months. Dr. Mercer took special interest in her case. "I believe we can help Lily," he told her parents, that same strange intensity in his amber eyes. "I've had success with similar cases." 3 days after Mercer began treating her, Lily's blood work showed improvement. Slight but definite, her parents wept with hope. A week later, her blast count had decreased further, but something was wrong with Lily. Despite the improving lab results, she was withering before our eyes, pale, exhausted, her small body seemingly collapsing in on itself. "She's not sleeping," her mother confided in me. "She says she's afraid to close her eyes, says the doctor visits her at night." I frowned. "Dr. Mercer doesn't do night rounds, not physically," her mother whispered. In her dreams, that evening I was charting at the nurse's station when I heard a scream from Lily's room. I ran in to find her sitting upright in bed, eyes wide with terror. "He was here," she shrieked. The doctor with the yellow eyes, I checked the room, assured her it was just a nightmare, and helped her mother settle her back to sleep. As I turned to leave, I noticed something on the floor near the bed, a single silver hair. Dr. Mercer hadn't been on the floor that day. I decided to stay late that night, ostensibly catching up on paperwork. The oncology ward was quiet after visiting hours, just the low hum of medical equipment and the occasional squeak of the night nurse's shoes on linoleum. Around 1 a.m. I saw him, Dr. Mercer, entering the ward. He wasn't scheduled. He wore no white coat, just dark slacks and a charcoal sweater. He moved with purpose toward Lily's room. I waited until he'd entered, then quietly followed. Through the narrow window in the door, I watched as he approached her bed. Lily was asleep, her mother dozing in the recliner chair nearby. Mercer stood over the child, utterly still for nearly a minute. Then he raised his hands, hovering them inches above her small chest. I expected him to check her vitals or adjust her IV, but he didn't touch any equipment. Instead, his hands began to emit a subtle glow, so faint I thought I was imagining it. As I watched, transfixed, the glow seemed to extend from his fingertips into Lily's body, like threads of pale light sinking beneath her skin. Lily's body went rigid, her mother didn't stir. I must have made some small sound of shock because Mercer's head snapped up, his amber eyes locking with mine through the window. The light from his hands vanished instantly. I stumbled backward, heart hammering, and fled to the supply closet at the end of the hall. I closed the door and pressed my back against it, trying to process what I'd seen. Had I imagined it? Was I overtired, my mind playing tricks? When I finally gathered the courage to emerge, the hallway was empty. I checked Lily's room. She and her mother were both asleep, seemingly undisturbed. No sign of Dr. Mercer. The next morning, Lily's lab results showed the most dramatic improvement yet. Her blast count had dropped to near normal levels. The attending physicians were using words like remarkable and unprecedented, but Lily herself could barely lift her head from the pillow. I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd seen. That night, I did something I'd never done before. I accessed the hospital database from home, looking up Dr. Mercer's previous employment records. His CV listed positions at prestigious hospitals across the country, never staying more than 2 years at each. I searched news archives from cities where he'd worked. A pattern emerged. Each hospital had reported unusual cancer recoveries during his tenure. Each had also experienced unexplained patient deaths, not enough to trigger investigations, but enough to notice when you were looking for them. I dug deeper. In Boston, 3 years earlier, a nurse had filed a complaint against Mercer, claiming she'd witnessed unethical treatment methods. She'd been dismissed from her position 2 weeks later. The complaint was buried. My hands shook as I closed my laptop. What was I dealing with? Some experimental treatment Mercer was administering without approval. But that didn't explain the glow, the way his hands seemed to penetrate Lily's body without breaking the skin. The next day at work, I avoided Mercer as best I could. When we did cross paths, he regarded me with that same unsettling intensity. "Late night, Nurse Chen?" he asked casually as we passed in the corridor. My blood froze. "Excuse me, you look tired." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Not sleeping well." "I'm fine," I managed, hurrying past him. That afternoon, I was called to the chief of medicine's office. Dr. Winters looked uncomfortable as I took a seat across from her desk. "Abigail, it's come to my attention that you accessed confidential personnel files last night," she said without preamble. My mouth went dry. I was researching treatment protocols. Dr. Mercer's employment history has nothing to do with treatment protocols. Her expression hardened. This is a serious breach of privacy. Dr. Winters, there's something not right about Mercer's cases, I said, leaning forward. His patients show improvement in their cancer markers but deteriorate physically, and the ones who don't respond well die from complications that don't make medical sense. She sighed. Abigail, you've been an excellent nurse, but this sounds like professional jealousy. Dr. Mercer's results speak for themselves. I saw him in Lily Matheson's room last night, I pressed, after hours. He was doing something to her, something that made his hands glow. Dr. Winter's expression shifted from disappointment to concern. Have you been taking sleeping pills, Abigail? Working too many doubles, I know what I saw. She stood, signaling the end of our meeting. Take 3 days off with pay, get some rest. When you return, I expect this fixation on Dr. Mercer to be resolved. I was being dismissed, literally and figuratively. I didn't go home. Instead, I waited in my car in the hospital parking garage until evening. I needed evidence, something concrete to show Dr. Winters. After dark, I re-entered the hospital through the staff entrance, keeping my head down as I made my way to the oncology floor. The night shift was just starting, and in the changeover bustle, no one questioned my presence. I slipped into an empty patient room near Lily's and waited, leaving the door cracked open just enough to see the hallway. Hours passed. I was beginning to think Mercer wouldn't come when I saw him, the same dark clothes, the same purposeful stride. This time, however, he didn't go to Lily's room. He continued past it, turning down the corridor toward the rooms of our older patients. I followed at a distance, watching as he entered the room of Walter Simmons, a 76-year-old with metastatic colon cancer. Walter had shown modest improvement under Mercer's care, but had recently plateaued. I positioned myself at the door window, phone ready to record. Inside, Mercer stood beside Walter's bed, hands hovering above the sleeping man's chest, just as he'd done with Lily. The faint glow appeared again, threads of light extending from Mercer's fingertips into Walter's body. But this time I noticed something different. The light wasn't going in, it was coming out. Something luminous was being drawn from Walter's chest into Mercer's hands, like he was extracting threads of pale fire. Walter's monitors began to show elevated heart rate, but no alarm sounded. Mercer had silenced them. The old man's face contorted in pain, though he remained unconscious. I fumbled with my phone, fingers trembling as I tried to record what I was seeing. The screen flashed as I hit record, and Mercer's head snapped toward me. Our eyes met. His were no longer merely amber, but glowing with the same eerie light that emanated from his hands. I ran. Behind me, I heard a door open. Footsteps followed, unhurried, confident. I rounded a corner, looking for a night nurse, an orderly, anyone, but the floor was deserted. I ducked into the stairwell, taking the steps 2 at a time, the slap of my shoes echoing in the concrete chamber. 1 floor down, I pushed through the door into the surgical wing, hoping to find staff prepping for early procedures. The corridor stretched empty before me, silent and dim in the night shift lighting. Abigail, his voice came from behind me, calm and almost sad. I whirled to find Mercer standing just feet away, though I hadn't heard the stairwell door open. "What are you?" I demanded, backing away. He sighed, a surprisingly human sound. "A healer like you, just more effective. You're killing people." "I'm saving people," he corrected. "Many more than I take." He stepped closer. I retreated until my back hit the wall. "Energy, Abigail, life force, call it what you will." His voice was reasonable, as if explaining a routine procedure. "Cancer patients are already losing it, leaking it as their cells multiply unchecked. I can redirect that energy, control it, use it." "For what?" My voice was barely a whisper. "To heal others. The young woman with 3 children who has decades of life ahead of her. Doesn't she deserve the life energy more than the 80-year-old who has lived his full measure?" His eyes held mine. "I make these choices every day. Who lives, who dies. Don't you do the same with your triage protocols?" "That's different," I insisted. "We don't kill people to save others. Don't you, when you ration care during disasters? When you decide who gets the last ICU bed?" He was close enough now that I could feel a strange coldness emanating from him. "I'm just more honest about it, more efficient." I clutched my phone. "I have evidence." "I recorded you." Mercer smiled sadly and held out his hand. My phone screen showed nothing but static. "Technology doesn't capture my work well," he said. "Neither does memory, usually. Most patients forget our sessions entirely. Most staff who glimpse what I do convince themselves they were mistaken." His head tilted. "But not you. You're resistant somehow." My mind raced. If I couldn't record him, couldn't convince others. "What happens now?" I asked, playing for time, looking for an escape route. "Now we come to an understanding." He leaned closer. "I'm helping people, Abigail, more than conventional medicine ever could. The few who die would have died anyway. I just harvest what would otherwise be wasted. Harvest, the word sent chills through me. You're not human. Something flickered across his face, annoyance perhaps. I was once long ago. Now I'm something better, something that can truly heal. And what happens when you've taken enough energy? What do you use it for? His smile returned. To live, to continue my work. And occasionally, his hand rose toward my face and I flinched away. To share my gift, I ducked under his arm and ran, sprinting down the corridor toward the elevators. Behind me, Mercer called out, his voice echoing strangely. You can't outrun this, Abigail. I've seen how you care for your patients, how you suffer with them. Wouldn't you like the power to truly help them? I jabbed the elevator button repeatedly, desperately. The doors slid open and I threw myself inside, hammering the lobby button and the door close button simultaneously. As the doors began to close, Mercer appeared before them, not having run but simply there, as if he'd materialized. He made no move to stop the doors, just watched me with those glowing amber eyes. Think about my offer, he said as the doors closed between us. We could do remarkable work together. I drove home in a daze, hands shaking on the steering wheel. I needed evidence, something concrete to show Dr. Winters or the medical board. But what? My phone recording had failed. No one had witnessed what I had seen. In my apartment, I double-locked the door and pushed a chair against it. I tried to organize my thoughts to form a plan. If I couldn't prove what Mercer was doing, I needed to stop him some other way. I opened my laptop and began searching, not for Mercer this time, but for anything that might explain what he was. Energy vampirism, life force manipulation, supernatural healing. Most results were New Age nonsense or fantasy fiction, but buried in an obscure academic journal, I found an anthropological study of folk healers across cultures. It described entities called life drinkers or soul eaters in various traditions, beings that could extract life essence from the sick or dying and use it to heal others, or themselves. According to the article, these creatures were once human healers who discovered a forbidden ritual that transformed them, granting extended life and healing powers at a terrible cost. They needed to consume life energy regularly or they would wither away. The article was scholarly, detached, treating these accounts as cultural curiosities rather than potential realities. But one detail caught my eye. In several traditions, these beings could be identified by their unusual amber or yellow eyes. I closed the laptop, my mind racing. If Mercer was something like these life drinkers, how could he be stopped? The folk tales offered conflicting methods, silver, salt, sacred words. I had no way of knowing what would work or if anything would. But I knew I couldn't let him continue. Sleep was impossible. I paced my apartment until dawn, formulating and discarding plans. By morning, I had decided. I would confront Mercer directly, threaten to expose him to every hospital where he'd worked, to create so much scrutiny that he'd be forced to leave. It was a desperate plan, but it was all I had. I arrived at the hospital early, determined to catch Mercer before rounds began. The oncology floor was quiet, the night shift preparing to hand over to day staff. I found him in the small doctor's office, reviewing charts. He didn't look up when I entered, but I knew he was aware of me. I've been expecting you, he said, finally raising those amber eyes to meet mine. Have you considered my offer? I want you to leave this hospital, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Leave these patients alone, move on to somewhere else, he sighed, setting down his pen. Or what, Abigail? You'll tell everyone I'm some kind of monster, that I glow in the dark. His smile was cold. How do you think that will end for you? I've documented every unusual death, every inconsistency in your cases, I bluffed. I've sent the information to journalists at 3 newspapers. If anything happens to me, they'll publish. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face, then he laughed softly. You're lying, he said, but I admire your courage. He stood, moving around the desk toward me. I don't want to hurt you, Abigail, quite the opposite. I want to share my gift with you. I backed toward the door. I'm nothing like you, aren't you? I've watched you with terminal patients, seen how you absorb their pain, their fear. How it drains you, his voice softened. What I offer is a way to truly help them, to take their pain and transform it, to decide who deserves to live. That's not our decision to make, I insisted. We make it every day, he countered. Every triage choice, every resource allocation, I'm just more direct. He was close now, too close. I could feel that same strange coldness emanating from him. Lily Matheson, I said suddenly. What are you doing to her? Something like pride crossed his face. She's special, rare, her life energy is extraordinary, pure. With what I've harvested from her, I could heal dozens, or, his eyes gleamed. I could use it for transformation, to create another like me. His hand rose toward my face, someone to share eternity with, someone who understands the work. I recoiled. You're killing her to turn me into a monster. I'm offering you power beyond anything you've imagined, he said, his voice hypnotic. The power to truly heal, to decide who lives and dies. To live for centuries watching humanity evolve. For a moment, just a moment, I felt the pull of his words, to truly heal, not just comfort, to defeat death, not just delay it. Then I thought of Lily withering as Mercer drained her life away, of Walter Simmons in pain as his remaining life was extracted. No, I said firmly, I won't become what you are. Disappointment darkened his face. Then you leave me no choice. His hand shot out, faster than I could react, gripping my wrist. Instantly, I felt a terrible cold spreading up my arm, a pulling sensation as if something essential was being drawn out of me. I tried to scream, but no sound emerged, my vision dimmed at the edges, my knees weakening. Your energy is remarkable, Mercer murmured, his amber eyes now blazing with that eerie light. So much compassion, so much life. It will sustain me for weeks. With my fading strength, I reached into my pocket with my free hand. My fingers closed around the syringe I'd prepared, filled with a lethal dose of potassium chloride stolen from the crash cart. It wouldn't kill whatever Mercer had become, but it would disable the human body he inhabited. As darkness crept further into my vision, I drove the needle into his thigh and depressed the plunger. Mercer's eyes widened in shock. His grip on my wrist loosened as he staggered back, clutching at his leg. The pulling sensation stopped abruptly. "What have you done?" he gasped, his voice suddenly human, frightened. I collapsed against the wall, watching as he fell to his knees. His skin was graying rapidly, lines appearing on his once smooth face as if years were catching up to him all at once. "How long have you been stealing life?" I asked, my voice weak. "How many years aren't really yours?" He reached for me, desperation in his now dimming eyes. "Help me," he pleaded. "I can teach you everything. We can heal together." I moved away from his grasping hand. "You don't heal," I said. "You consume." His breathing was labored now, his silver hair turning white, then falling out in clumps. The skin of his face sagged, then tightened over rapidly deteriorating bone structure. "You don't understand," he wheezed. "Without the energy, the years return, all of them." Before my eyes, Dr. Elias Mercer aged decades in minutes, his body shriveling, collapsing in on itself like a time-lapse of decomposition. His fine clothes hung on a skeleton barely covered by parchment skin. His last words were a rattling whisper, "I only wanted to heal them." Then there was nothing but dust and empty clothes on the office floor. I stumbled from the room in shock, barely making it to the nearest bathroom before vomiting. When I could stand again, I splashed cold water on my face and stared at my reflection. For a moment I thought I saw a flicker of amber in my eyes, but it was gone when I looked again, just my imagination, just fear. By the time security responded to the emergency call from a nurse who'd found me collapsed in the hallway, there was no sign of Dr. Mercer in the office, just a strange, ashy residue that the cleaning staff would later vacuum away. The official story became that Dr. Mercer had abruptly resigned, leaving no forwarding address. There was confusion, some anger from administration, but life at the hospital continued. Lily Matheson made a full recovery, a miracle her doctors called it. Walter Simmons passed away peacefully a week later, his cancer having suddenly accelerated. I stayed at Mercy General, watching Lily thrive, attending Walter's funeral. I kept my secret, knowing no one would believe the truth. But sometimes, in the quiet hours of night shifts, I feel a strange hunger when I sit with dying patients, an awareness of the energy slipping away from them, wasted. I feel a pull in my fingertips as if they could extend, could capture that fading light. I resist, always I resist, but I check my eyes in every mirror I pass, searching for hints of amber. And I wonder how long Elias Mercer resisted before he became the monster I destroyed. I wonder how long I can.